So, what if the Great Saiyaman was in My Hero Academia? The Great Saiyaman mollywops him, no difficulty. It's actually so insane how easy Gohan takes this fight. It would actually be interesting for sure. He would be holding back, but Gohan, Great Saiyaman, is out there. He's Cell Saga past this point, or a reduced Cell Saga because he hasn't been training.
We going higher and higher, higher, until we on top.
What if Gohan was in My Hero Academia? This is an old story I started and never finished. It's funny because in the last video I said there wouldn't be a huge hiatus, and here we are 4 years later. So this will be a full-on remake.
A full-on remake, 5 years later. Let's see what he got to say.
I'm going to take things from the original story while also adjusting anything I didn't like, so whether you saw the original or you're just starting here, you'll have something to enjoy. And thankfully, My Hero Academia is actually finished right now, so that'll make the story a lot easier. This is definitely more of a fanfic than a traditional what if, though all what ifs are fanfics in a way, so let's get started by discussing how we'll do this.
Alright, so what if Gohan was in My Hero Academia? Is Gohan going to be it's Team Gohan in the end of the start of the Majin Buu saga? So
of course the concept is what if Gohan was in My Hero Academia, but this isn't actually going to be Gohan, rather a character inspired by him. If we just put Gohan in the story as he is, there would be no issues for him. Even as
yeah, okay, that makes sense. So we're going to do a Gohan-like character. Okay, I'll stay with it. I'll see.
As a literal child, he could solo the entire verse. So we'll say this character is exactly Deku's age. In case you haven't seen the first one and are wondering why is this about Gohan and not Goku, well, Goku's going to be in it, but unlike Goku, Gohan actually went to school and became a hero. Overall, he's just a better fit as the main character for this scenario. We're not going to add everyone to the story, but we're also going to see some other Dragon Ball characters along the way, but only a few. We would be taking way too many detours if we added and covered everyone. Let's introduce you to the two biggest characters here. Son Gohan is entering high school, and he wants to become a pro hero.
Bear with me as I start getting art commissioned for this story. I don't have many renders right now. I'll use some regular Buu Saga Gohan arts for his casual clothes.
He has a unique quirk, mutated from the powers of his parents. His mother Chi-Chi worked at a hero agency without the goal of becoming a hero. Her father had her intern under a former pro hero that taught him, and this is where she met her husband. Her quirk is called Oxprint.
Also, any side characters I mentioned won't be getting unique designs because it won't be worth it to get art commissioned of everyone. I'll use regular designs. Maybe I'll draw my own designs at some point.
She gains power from motion, deriving major
shout out to you doing your own artwork. It said, I can draw
physical strength from it. Rage, determination, any major emotion would buff her. And she's a master martial artist, but she would never become a pro hero. She doesn't like it, honestly. She doesn't want Gohan to be a hero. She thinks it's far too dangerous, and she doesn't really like the hero system. Though her quirk is pretty nice, but one downside is that whenever her strength is buffed, it does use up a lot of calories. But as long as she's eating a lot, that counters it. Now her husband, Son Goku, is actually a current pro hero. Very high up, in fact. Chi-Chi is fine with him being a hero because
that's kind of cool. I like that. Okay.
He can handle himself. She just doesn't want her son going down the same path. And Goku's fine with whatever his kid does. Goku learned late into his life that he's from another country, not Japan. He comes from a faraway village, one where a lot of his relatives and distant relatives have a similar quirk with tails. But he's orphaned, and he was
okay, I said I kind of like that.
Raised by his grandpa Gohan here. Goku pursued becoming a hero partially because of the thrill of it and to test his limits. But he was pretty good at it, and he's come to like it. He is heroic and great at his job. But he's not a very altruistic hero like All Might or something. Not that he's a bad guy, not at all. Goku's the number 5 pro hero. He would be much higher if he had more focus on optics. Public opinion on him is pretty much positive. He's very charming and likable, as well as being viewed as honest and straightforward, and
I said, why is Goku the number 5 pro hero? I said, I understand that you're not going to put it exactly in there, so I guess I have to suspend reality a little bit for this.
He's really powerful too, but at the same time, people recognize he doesn't care too much about the politics of heroics or being a symbol of peace. He doesn't want fame. He's not always advertising or milking his image dry or something. Plus, he usually works alone, or at the very least, without closely collaborating with others. He has an allure to him, though. They know he's not an incredibly serious guy, but
that is a cool photo of Goku.
He's got a really good heart. He's pretty humble, he has no PR, and he barely even has an agency. His former mentor Roshi actually manages him, and that's really it. And he's acquaintances with most of the other pro heroes, mainly out of necessity. Funny enough, because of his personality, All Might actually likes him a lot, because Goku's one of the most authentic heroes out there. But otherwise, Goku doesn't have a ton of hero friends. Like, his best friend Krillin, for example, ended up becoming a cop instead of a pro hero, despite having a quirk. Goku's strength and his quirk is what carries him far, and Deborah even views him as a threat. Anyways, Goku was adopted by Grandpa Gohan, a martial artist with a quirk called Extend. He fought with a staff, and with this quirk, he was able to extend the staff.
Power pole extend. Okay, so we're really just rewriting Dragon Ball to fit in My Hero Academia at this point. I haven't really seen anything too interesting about this story yet, but we're just setting the start. So
Pretty straightforward, but for a martial artist, it became a really helpful quirk. He could temporarily alter the shape and size of different objects, inanimate ones. Goku also does fight with a staff, but he doesn't have the same quirk. This is a support item that works mechanically.
okay,
His Nyoibo, aka his power pole. And Goku's such a great martial artist that he's working on a mastery of self-movement, but he's not quite there yet. He's the Great Ape hero, Monkey King,
Great Ape Hero Monkey King. What's his quirk?
and his quirk is called Dragon Soul.
Dragon Soul. That's clean. That's fucking clean. I said that one is like, bro. That hoe is clean. Dragon Soul. I said, bro, mysteries are bound, made of a deep energy.
I was really debating what his quirk and his title should be called, but I think this combination here fits in the references that are needed, but it also fits what his quirk actually works like. His has some similarities to Chi-Chi's. At first, he used to gain huge bursts of power when he was enraged, almost like there was a giant ape living inside of him. But during his school years, and thanks to all his martial arts training, he learned how to manifest that power and control the rage, making it his own. He learned his soul actually gives him energy, and depending on his awareness, emotions, or willpower, that soul can grant more energy, which he simply calls ki.
I said, oh, wow. That's so convenient.
Grandpa Gohan found it amazing because it's like the martial arts principles of ki, but in a quirk form. Goku could physically and visibly manifest that energy. Chi-Chi's power is purely derived from emotions, while Goku's is derived from his soul and his spirit. Somewhat related to his emotions, but not entirely. When Goku learned the true nature of his quirk, he figured out that it works by charging ki inside of him. Goku and Chi-Chi's quirks work perfectly together, and that was complete coincidence. They didn't get together because of their quirks. They ended up having 2 kids, Gohan and Goten. Now, just to make sure you don't get your hopes up, Goten is not going to be relevant in the scenario, and Chi-Chi will pop up here and there, but she's also not going to be covered as much. I just don't want you to expect everyone to show up here. Anyways, now let's cover son Gohan. His quirk is called Zenkai Power, a combination of his parents'
Zenkai Power. It says, aspiring hero son Gohan, quirk Zenkai Power. I said, that's kind of clean, though. I said, I could tell this man watched Dragon Ball Z. Beat-da-dee-da, don't know the words for Zenkai Power. Hey.
quirks, granting Gohan ki control similar to his father, but even bigger buffs from emotions from his mother's side. Gohan is very mild-mannered and doesn't really know the
It says a lot of people will colloquially use Zenkai to refer to Saiyan power boost after healing. It's actually called Saiyan power, while Zenkai means full throttle or full force.
extent of his power. But with the 2 quirks mixing together and working in tandem, combining into this new exclusive quirk for Gohan, his rage grants him power and boosts his ki. Emotions can benefit Goku, but not entirely, while emotions are the main driver behind Chi-Chi's power, leading to what Gohan has. One strange thing about Goku, and now Gohan, is the fact that Goku was born with a tail. A lot of the people in the place where he was from actually were born with tails too. Goten didn't inherit this, but Gohan does. For a martial artist, it's really useful to have an extra limb like that.
Yes, it is.
But Goku's also noticed that it kind of acts as like a beacon for his ki. So Gohan has the same thing. Gohan never deeply worked on martial arts like his parents had, though he has had some decent training. Chi-Chi was more focused on getting him to study, but from time to time she would train him, and so would Goku when he had the time. But anyone who has seen Gohan's quirk before doesn't know the true extent of it, not even Gohan himself. Because Gohan's problem is he subconsciously regulates his power. His emotional spikes are really overwhelming, and he's typically mild-mannered by default, so
We're about halfway through this, and I'm like, okay, we're still setting it up.
he never really sees it much. Because of that, he hasn't had much practice controlling it, and he's really afraid of losing control. So he holds his emotions back, and he always fights under his ceiling because of it. Because when Gohan doesn't regulate his ki or his emotions, his power will leak out. This is bad for collateral damage and wasted energy, because just like his mother, it does eat up some calories. But the bigger downside is that when it leaks out, it's going to be damaging the environment around him, which might not always be ideal. Gohan's confident about getting into UA though. He has pretty great grades, thanks to his mom helping him study. And even though his quirk doesn't seem as great as either of his parents, it's still pretty nice. He just needs to practice with it more. And his father is a pro hero, so that's definitely going to help too. It's testing day. Since Chi-Chi was so serious about school, and she didn't want Gohan becoming a pro hero, she sent him to a prestigious private school, so he doesn't know anybody here. That's one area where Gohan's lacking. He doesn't have any friends that are trying to get into UA.
It said he has no connections. I don't know why you need connections, but I guess.
As for the physical exam, Gohan has trained for this. He doesn't like the idea of fighting for thrill like his father, but he loves the idea of being a hero, and that's what motivates him to train and fight. He's even already come up with a name for himself. He's going to call himself the Great Saiyaman, and this name is
Great Saiyaman.
twofold. It was really hard to try and implement the Saiyan name here, but For one, since part of Gohan's quirk does use calories, he took it from the Japanese word for vegetable, just like where the word Saiyan came from. But also, Goku's ancestors come from a group that was called the Saiyans. They're
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know Saiyan meant vegetable.
not a separate race or anything, that's just what the tribe was called. Gohan even has an outfit in mind already, and he's practicing poses too. And during the exam, he sees a ton of interesting quirks at play. And
Okay.
weirdly enough, there's one kid who almost looks to be quirkless, like he does nothing the entire time. And he seems to be facing ridicule from the others. And just to give him a push, Gohan does wish him good luck. Gohan also kind of feels out of place here, because a lot of people here do know at least one other person, where they have really impressive quirks that they've trained on a lot. But Gohan's not sure if anyone's going to like him right away because, first of all, he doesn't really have an impressive quirk, at least right now. He's got to make a good impression. They assume that he's only here because of nepotism, so that definitely doesn't help his image. Gohan tries to tap into his power, and he's mainly feeling nervous right now, and that's one emotion that doesn't help him. Since emotion directly correlates with his power, this is another downside of his quirk. Whenever he feels timidness, fear, anxiety, things like that, his power kind of plummets. One thing he does want to also focus on is the efficiency of his calories. Unlike his mother, his quirk doesn't fully rely on his energy from calories. It doesn't have too big of an effect on him, and he thinks this is a downside he could overcome. The other downsides I mentioned are going to be tougher. Slowly he gets more determined, but when he sees he's falling behind, he gets worried at first. But then he remembers, rage will give him power. He tries something weird. He gets angry at himself. And this kind of works. It gives him a huge burst of speed and power. He can't really control it at first, but it's easy enough to rack up some points like this. And it's not a major boost, but enough for him to destroy some of the machines. So he doesn't score too high on the entrance exam, but it doesn't matter. He still is able to get in, and he's placed into 1A. This is where Gohan actually gets to meet some more people, but would he replace anyone in 1A? Probably.
Oh my gosh. This is so fucking boring. Holy shit. This is a terrible what if scenario. I'm so sorry, guys. I thought this would be a lot more interesting. This is so boring. This is the most boring what if scenario that I've come across yet. Holy shit. Like, I'm bored. Like, bored.
Who's a student that we could do without, though? Only the top 10 of the test results are shown, so we don't know who scored the lowest. Do we just kick out someone like Mineta? Yeah, why not? Both in terms of his abilities and his relevance to the story, I think we can't do without him here. Immediately, people assume he got here because of his father, and he's not the only.
Bro, what? This looked like a Family Guy rendition of Gohan.
Only one in UA with a pro hero related to him, but he can tell he's being judged because of it, because the others had better performances. Ida at least tries to be diplomatic, just like he is to everyone, so Gohan at least gets a welcoming from him. And then he sees Deku, who he does remember from the exam. Looks like he's also struggling to fit in. He is kind of intimidated by Aizawa. And then they have the quirk apprehension test. Gohan tries to channel his power here, and briefly it does work. Bakugo notices this and thinks that he's purposely holding back. Either that or he really doesn't know how to control his power. Bakugo's curious as to what his quirk works like, even though he's more focused on Deku right now. And Gohan notices the same kind of weird thing from Deku. Now, he has no clue about his quirk or how that works, but it also looks like he has a quirk that he doesn't have a lot of control over, so maybe the two are more similar than he thought. And he's been pretty reserved this entire time.
So he's gonna learn how to control his quirk with Deku.
But this is where he actually strikes up a conversation, asking Deku a bit about his power after this. He asks if he has trouble controlling his quirk, and Deku's pretty surprised that Gohan noticed this. He has to kind of play it off because he can't really explain what his quirk is, but he keeps it very simple. Yeah, he doesn't really have a ton of control over it right now, but he's working on it. Gohan says he's the same way. He just doesn't know how to tap into his quirk fully either. And when he does, he doesn't know if he's going to be able to control it. And now Deku sees what Gohan's seeing. They do have similar downsides to their quirk. Weird. Everyone gets their first hero costumes as well. And in the
I said, I like the Great Saiyan Man. Yeah, that's a clean ass costume. That is a clean fucking costume. Look at this. What if Gohan was in My Hero Academia? That is a cool ass fan art.
previous version of the story, I used this design, but in that story his quirk worked differently. Those orange pieces are where Gohan could charge energy. Also, I was trying to implement the Dragon Ball into his costume. It was a mix of the Great Saiyaman 3's costume from Dragon Ball Heroes and design elements I saw in other
Great Saiyaman 3. Is that Trunks?
My Hero Academia costumes, but I also don't think Gohan needs armor here or a high-tech suit. Plenty of My Hero Academia characters have normal outfits, so I think the simplest change of clothes for Gohan would just be his regular Saiyaman outfit. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I actually think the design of this costume
Hidden Potential Hero, Great Saiyaman.
fits the world pretty well. He's gonna start out with the helmet and all. We have the first battle trial, and this is where he meets All Might. Now, Gohan knows a little bit about him. He doesn't really idolize any heroes, besides his father. And All Might's the man that his father knows and is somewhat indifferent towards, at least in comparison to others. Most people feel intense emotions around All Might, either huge admiration, huge jealousy, or something else like that. But Goku treats him like any other person, which All Might really likes. and All Might introduces himself to Gohan. He has high hopes for him. He tells Gohan his father's a very genuine, kind-hearted guy. He expects him to push himself, and Gohan takes this very seriously, just nodding in silence. Despite how nice of a guy All Might is, he is still pretty intimidating in person. But seeing All Might in person makes him understand what the whole symbol thing is. He wants to be a hero like that. I'm not going to spend too much time on the battle trial here, but this is where people truly start to see Gohan's power. They saw it in that quirk apprehension test, but here, they see some of his martial arts skill and briefly some of the actual strength he uses. Sorta similar to how Deku was using it.
I said, yep, that motherfucking Deku.
But it's very clear Gohan can't control it or activate it willingly. And when he does activate it, the damage is more widespread than he intends. Like, he tries to break through parts of the building, but he ends up breaking the floor below him, and even sending shockwaves that knock people back. And this makes Gohan kind of embarrassed. Some see his quirk as scary, while others wonder if he's ever going to be able to use it at all. But Deku sees someone that has the same struggles as him. Slowly, Gohan starts interacting with more of the people in his class. I feel like he'd fall into the same group that Deku falls into. Deku, Ida, and Uraraka. Of course, Deku's really impressed by everybody else's quirks, and being how he is, he's pretty much studying everybody. But still, he sees an opportunity in Gohan, an opportunity for both of them to grow. And even in their nature and how they act, the two are pretty similar. Their personalities aren't too different. This might be the start of a really great friendship. Eventually, the class arrives at USJ, and this is where they face their first real threat. Kurogiri warps everybody around, and Gohan lands with the random group. He's in a mountainous area of USJ, and he is a little bit nervous, but if this is going to be true combat here, he needs to lock in. He's been warped here with Shoji and Jiro, two people that he knows pretty much nothing about. The three of them all try and stay focused. Shoji keeps a cool head, and he even tries to give Gohan some motivation. He saw some of what his power was like. He asks Gohan if he thinks he can control it in this high-stress situation, because even though it's a lot sooner than expected, this is the type of stuff they'll face as heroes, and Gohan recognizes that. And he nods. The three of them will get out of this together, and he feels like the three of them could make a good team, given the differences in their powers. As they figure out what to do next, this is where we'll leave off for now. What'd you guys think about this part? What's gonna happen next?
I ultimately think that this was bad. I wasn't entertained at all. This was so bad. Maybe it's the voice. I don't know if it was just the premise. I didn't enjoy this. This was dislike.
Shame me? Y'all niggas can't shame me. Y'all don't know I don't give a fuck already. Y'all can't shame a nigga. Y'all got me fucked up.
What's your name?